Kill me! I'm here! Kill me!
Hey everybody, this is Matthew Movies coming at you with my review of Carrie. Now, for those of you who are curious, and if you haven't read the date at the bottom of the description of this video, or not even description, the title or description, I'm not talking about the god-awful remake. I'm talking about the original Sissy Spacek Stephen King adaptation that is mind-bogglingly good in my personal opinion. I love this movie. I remember seeing it as early teens, in my early teens I should say, and being blown away. I mean, they set up this movie so expertly. I love how they get you into the world where you're introduced to this character that has abilities that are interesting, and that you're kind of like, I wonder how that's gonna play out. And I mean, obviously there are some, at this point people probably have heard enough about the movie to have some kind of idea, but not. I personally, when I went into it, I didn't really know much about it. I hadn't read the book at that point in my life, and so it was really interesting to set her up as this character that is kind of getting beaten down by all corners, but yet she's getting these abilities that give her some the potential to be able to fight back. But she also seems like a very meek and mild-mannered person that probably never would. And then throughout the rest of the movie, you see her getting pushed further and further and further, and then it looks like there's some a silver lining to the cloud that has been constantly over her life. And there's a moment there where you think, this movie is set up in a way that that something's going to end up happening, but you think, oh, maybe she's not going to spend the entire movie miserable. And then of course that's not the case. She's given a very, very harsh and specific reason to have an intense hatred for a lot of the people in her life, and the way that she lashes out is so horrific and so shocking and so just brutal that it just takes you completely aback. And the scene at the end, near the end of the movie, where she's giving some of the people in her life comeuppance, and much more than that, taking things much further than any rational person ever would. It goes on and on and on and on, to the point where at first there's a kind of a rush of adrenaline and emotion that you're there's a part of you that's as a viewer, that because you've grown to care about her and to see the things that have happened to her, there's a bit of a righteous feeling to what she's doing. I mean, obviously the degree to which she takes things, even from the get-go, you're kind of taken aback by, but there's a bit of a feeling of enjoyment of what she's doing. But then, because it just goes on and on and on, and more people get wrapped up in her anguish and her vengeance, you start to feel disgust for what she's doing. And the way the movie is shot, and the way the scene takes place, and the specific instances within it that they focus on, where the look of terror on people's faces, and the look of anguish in specific moments on characters that you don't necessarily feel like they deserve it. You end up going through this kind of whole battle within yourself, where you're watching it, and there's like I said, when you start off, there's almost a level of not pride, but you're kind of living vicariously through her for a little bit, because I think most people have felt ostracized at a few moments in their lives, and even if they haven't, there's usually a moment in somebody's life where they feel like the world is against them, or that even the people who it seems from an outsider's point of view, the world is kind of falling at their feet. All of us have our trials and tribulations. So there is some level of enjoyment of her taking over the driver's seat in the world that she's built. But as things continue, like you're fighting the feelings within yourself, because that's always still somewhat there. That you always throughout the scene can empathize with her, but at the same time you get further and further disgusted with what she's doing. Or in another sense, like if you're like a horror fan, or what, like somebody who enjoys seeing that kind of action, you there's a part of the scene that takes the emotional aspect of it out, and you're more looking at it kind of on a more visceral level of like just the devastation and all of that. And then one of the most amazing moments in the entire movie is a couple of the people that have been especially harsh on her. There's a moment where they're trying to escape, and you really end up kind of rooting for them in that moment, and or at least I did, and you're kind of amazed at it, that the movie has managed to spend however long, the 90% of the movie, just building them up and building them up for you to hate them more and more and more and more. But the humanity in you, by the time things come to their climax, you're rooting for them. And it's that level of storytelling and acting and the way everything is done that really blows me away about this movie. I mean, it's got everything that you could possibly want in a movie if you're a horror fan, or if you're not a horror fan, but if you're somebody who can deal with the horrific nature of some of the sequences, and they won't take you out of the story of a film. I really feel like the story arc of this film is just masterful. It is adapted, I should say, from a Stephen King story, and I mean, the guy is the gigantic success he is for a good reason, and just everything across the board. I feel like this movie is just a marvelous film. Brian De Palma is the director, and I mean, he just knocks it out of the park. And this is one of my favorite movies from the era, and one of my favorite horror movies of all time, because I just think it has everything going for it, and it's just a masterpiece. So those are my thoughts on Carrie, and let me know in the comments below what you think of this movie. Let me know if you've only seen the remake, please do yourself a favor and go back and watch the original, because there's so much about the remake that is just lacking. Like, I mean, the way the effects in the remake look so cartoony, and there's just like a lack of any kind of realism to them. It makes it so when all these scenes are taking place, you're not invested in them, because it looks like you're watching people walking around in a cartoon that's trying to kill them. You know, it'd be like if Bob Hoskins was being killed in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, it wouldn't have the same punch on a visceral level that this movie does, and that is one of the reasons why it works so well. So I could not stand the remake. I think it was just a pile of garbage. So if you've only seen that one, please go back and check out the original. Hit that like button. It does awesome things for my channel, and I would be very, very appreciative of you if you did that. Subscribe, hit that the bell, the notification, all that good stuff. It means the world to me. And other than that, have yourself a nice day.